Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good day. Welcome to my video presentation on LabTask 1 DFP 40233 Visual Basic. So on this video we will discuss on mainly about Visual Studio, the tools and how to create a form in Visual Studio. So firstly, what is Visual Studio? Visual Studio is an environment for developers to develop application uh, for Windows. So hi, my name is Haris Muhammad bin Hamidi from class DDT 5B, and my metric number is 21 DDT 21F1141. Without further ado, let's carry on with our presentation. So this is the overview on what the topic that we will cover on this video. So the first one is 5 names of object control from the toolbox tab in Visual Basic, and then function of all those 5 object control from the toolbox tab in Visual Basic, and then we will go to steps on how to create a new project, and then create a simple form in Visual Basic. So 5 names of object control from the toolbox. So on the toolbox in Visual Basic, in Visual Studio, they are a variety of object control offered. It performs various tasks. So the first one is text box. A text box is an environment or a space that enable user to key in their input. Okay, and then button. It's like a typical button. It performs as click button on Windows form. And then there is label. Label is to display text for user. Unlike text box, it requires users unlike text box that requires users to key in inputs. So simply to say, label is just for the users display. And then there is picture box, is to display image on Windows form. Pretty simple. And checkbox permits user to choose between yes or no, or true or false option. So with all that explanation, these are the icons for each of object control. So in picture box, these are the icons. So with all these icons, it would help the developers to recognize and easily pick which object control that they want to use. So next is how to create a new project in Visual Studio, and a step-by-step guide on how to create a simple form in Visual Studio. So how are we going to create a new project in Visual Studio? It's fairly simple. So when you get in Visual Studio, this will be the interface. So the first thing that you want to do is create a new project and let it load, and make sure to pick Visual Basic as the language and just click Windows Form app. Okay, and then you can rename the project name. So on this case, let's put it as Lab Task 1. Okay, and then the location is depends on you and your computer. Then click next. Okay. So for the framework, I suggest you to pick along these are the interface. So the project, to create the new project in Visual Studio is simple. All those 3 steps that I mentioned here, that's it. Okay, so now how are we going to develop a form, a simple form in Visual Studio using Visual Basic? So these are the form. These are the form. You can resize it, or you can get it smaller or bigger. Okay, so what do we want to do now, right? So we have the toolbox on the left hand side. So this is where all the object controls lies. Okay, look at all the options that been given. Alright, close it. So on the right hand side, we have the properties. So for these properties, we can use it to edit the form, the color of the form, and the object control. Okay, sorry. So now what do we do? First thing first, I would like to set the environment first for this form. So here we can just change the color of the form. Let's go for something that is blue, maybe aqua, or deep sky blue. Yes, appearances blue. Yeah, okay, so there you go. Okay, and we also can change the form icon by converting any image into ICO, which stands for icon, and also we can rename the icon. We can rename the form. In this case, we are not going to do that. Okay, so what are we going to do now? Let's make a game interface. So let's pick a label, as it only shows so this is label 1. Let's make it bigger. And then here, appearance, we can change the name into, let's go for welcome. Yada. Okay, and also let's change the design. What is this? It is we change the label into something that we can recognize. So let's say instead of label 1, we can put label welcome. Right. So what's next? We also can another label. Let's name it label game name. Okay, and then let's name our game running game. There you go. Let's also we can also change the font if we want to. Let's pick this. Yes. Good. Make it bigger. Alright. So next, let's make a button. Okay. If we want to make it faster, we can just copy and paste. So this is our buttons. Let's make our button bigger. Here we also can change the color of our button. In this case, let's pick something that is black. Let's change the name. Start. You know what? Let's start, and then let's put a text box. So for this button, let's rename it to begin start. And for this, let's rename it to txt username. So this text box enables user to key in their name. We also can change the background of the form by downloading, or if you have any designs that's suitable, you can just put it on here. Background image here. You just click on import and then pick your background. Alright, so it is very simple. So to code it, you just have to click twice on the form, and there you go. These are the codes that you can edit to make, let's say, make this button function, or you can make a transition to the second form when you press the button, and so on and so forth. So these are the ways to do it. Alright, if we click 2 times on button, it will clearly indicates here button 1 click. So maybe you have 2 forms, and when you run it, when you click the button, it enables you to transition to the second form. So for the code for that is just form2 dot show, right? But we don't have the another form to do it. Alright, we didn't create it yet, obviously. But if you have the second form, you can just simply put the form name here and then dot show. Make sure the form name is correct. Okay, let's run it. There you go. So when you run it, okay, it will show this. Okay, and these are the simulation or the interface that the user will see when, let's say, your application is completed and when you published it. Okay, so if we click on button start, it obviously didn't do anything because we haven't code or we haven't put any instruction. So on the text box, let's say we can put our name. Let's say my name Muhammad bin Hamidi. Yes. So that is how to create a simple form in Visual Studio.